on the conversations. We have some questions here that could guide this conversation. We want to do this again, so we don't want to go too long, but just some feedback for us.
I'll be quick and direct. One, we will definitely do this again, at least in my group. I thought it was useful. And what I appreciate the most, I've said it a number of times, is the fact that the board actually got talked to. Yeah. Right? In other words, oftentimes, we're not able to engage in the board format, and so what I really appreciate was the ability to ask questions, to have a dialogue back and forth, to engage with folks. And so the folks who are in our room, thank you. You've enlightened me in numerous ways, and I'm looking forward to chewing on the information that you spit back on us. So I really appreciate the time that you all, good folks, and the pushing as well. Right? I greatly appreciate that. So thank you.
Agreed. Go ahead, Chris.
I definitely enjoyed the fact that we talked about common language. One of my difficulties being on the board was the acronyms and the terminology. We need consistency, and just due to the fact that I heard that you can go from school to school and hear different terminology led me to believe that we need common language. What surprised me was the lack of consistency that every one of our professionals spoke to. We have to have consistency. We're not talking about being cookie cutter, but we're talking about, doing things similar. And, what challenged me is I have a business kind of mindset, and I think that you do things for a certain outcome and certain expectation with a certain vigor and rigor. And I know we're dealing with children and things like that, so I need to put my mind in the place of working with children and not pushing for results as aggressively as I'd like to, because I'm not a patient person. So that's my feedback.
Chris opening up about.
I like talking to educators and learning from their perspective what's happening on the ground, and actually being challenged in some of my assumptions as a non-educator on what they're faced with. And it was just pleasant to, as Sean said, be challenged and say, this is what's happening, this is what we're trying to do, this is what would work and what wouldn't work, and your ideas coming from a board member or community member don't necessarily reflect the reality of what we're trying to do every day in the building. And it was good to hear that. And what surprised me was the lack of any negativity, any discussion of the negativity that we're going to face. When we put plans like this together, we talk about, oh, look at this beautiful plan, everything's going to go smoothly, and I know that's not the case. I know there's a lot of inertia of bad practices and just kind of little fiefdoms, whether it's a class, a building, or department. And I don't want to just put up a nice pretty plan and not expect that there's going to be a certain group of people who say, you're asking me to change what? Hell no, I'm not doing that. So we got into that a little bit, and it just challenged me to be open to other ideas and learn from other people actually on the ground what's happening. And I thought it was a valuable half an hour, 40 minutes.
Other comments? Go ahead, Pat.
I think commenting for the group that stayed in this room because of inertia and not wanting to change.
Way to take the bit, I know wrong with it, but go ahead.
It's very pleasant, but just to play off of those comments, I was sitting between two elementary school principals and asked them what they saw in this plan for their buildings, and both of them were very positive about the commonality. And as a longtime resident of this district, I know people have been very proud of the idiosyncrasies of various schools, which kind of mirrors the idiosyncrasies of other large bureaucratic entities in this town. But they're very positive about this move towards communication, assessment, common practices, some communication, and that's very positive and echoed with the teachers. This was a lot for us to bite off in 45 minutes, even those of us who did the reading ahead of time. And I think maybe if we'd had maybe a couple more focused questions that everyone was addressing, that could have streamlined discussion, but it was a good place to start. We got some very good ideas, different viewpoints, and I appreciated it.
Other comments? Brad, go ahead.
Oh, I want to echo what I said. Thank you to all the staff who came tonight. That was great. It was very helpful for me to hear from each of the different folks in the room I was in, hear what's going on in their buildings. Very helpful to hear that. I might actually have been surprised by how open everybody was to some change. Usually you hear if you're going to make change, it's no way, and we're never going to change it. And I heard a lot of openness to challenging each other and challenging ourselves. So that was pleasing and a bit surprising. And appreciated folks being, challenging the board and allocation of resources and, those kinds of questions. It's good to hear it. And I appreciate that, pushing back and saying you need to think about it differently, and that's okay. Excuse me, think about it differently. No more adverbs. I've been told the adverbs are out.
So 2011, Brad.
Whatever. Anyone else? Oh, Eldred, go ahead.
I think what I was also in the lazy group. Yes, what's we're calling ourselves? The people stayed here.
That's what we're calling you now.
What pleased me was that our professionals were saying things that I surmised not being a professional. Things like that it is much easier to have differentiated instruction with small people than with people in the high school. And of course you cannot teach folks at the high school in 39 minutes what they need to be taught. That literacy is the golden ticket, and it's in many ways the only ticket. These are things that I've picked up in my 30 plus years of working in this arena, and have it confirmed or validated, made me feel like I was doing the right thing, and it does make sense for me for Valentine's Days to do this. What surprised me is that there seemed to be a general perception that it's the central administration that has never been strong enough to make this happen. And my expectation was that folks were going to place it on the doorstep of the individual building leaders, and that's not the perception. The perception is this kind of the networks we have to build one system and not a system of 14 different schools was lacking here. And I think what challenged the group as a whole is to figure out the most efficient way to continue to push all of this into classrooms. I applaud Dr. Brown for reiterating over and over that it really doesn't matter what we do. We're not having the conversation in a classroom with a professional and managing that professional as they deal with young people and just helping them get better at that.
Anyone else? Jay?
I think what pleased me the most was being on the same eye level as the staff. They're valuing what we said and us totally valuing what they said. As Seth said, and I really applaud you for saying that, hearing what the teachers or staff in the trenches have to say changed some of your perceptions of how we look at our school buildings. A suggestion for the next time, I'd like to switch groups and hear some others. But I really like the we and not the us and the they. I never heard an us and a them. So I think it's coming together. I think it's huge. I'm glad it's 2015. I think it's a great start.
Anything, Jay?
Just, it's time we do something different. It's time for some change for the children, for the benefit of the children, and I'm excited and glad to see that we've started. It's underway.
All excellent comments. We'll move right along. We made it through 5 strategies, I think, Dr. Brown. So perhaps I guess we're just going to stay at 5 and not go further. But perhaps I think perhaps. So
You won't label your first.
we had an excellent conversation. We openly talked about the district, and it was great to speak with staff. Certainly from us, what we've been preaching, talking about is really a consistency of high expectations for every staff, students in the district, administrators. So this is how we keep moving this forward. And Dr. Brown, why don't you finish this up
Sure.
for us?
The next steps, we're going to go back and fine-tune the plan. After hearing some of your comments tonight, no substantive changes, just a few wording choices that we're going to correct. Then we're hoping to put this into what we're calling a project charter document. I heard from our group the need for some timelines and some primary focus of responsibility. So we'll have some timelines, backward staffing from 2015. Some of the wording spoke to the development of committees or planning to get a group together. We'll tell you when that's going to happen. Some of them have already happened. So we'll put the timelines in, who's responsible, and we'll tighten up the goals. We're expecting this percentage increase or this number by X and this number by X to get to our ultimate goal by 2015. And we'll also translate that project charter into a balanced scorecard approach, which we've talked about. You'll see where we are. You'll see whether or not we're on target, which will get us to a yellow light or a green light, or if we're severely behind target, which will be a red light. And we're gonna hold ourselves accountable for this. We've talked about bold and innovative. I think you've seen us being bold and innovative here. The now piece is what we do after tonight. So coming back on the 28th, the February 28th meeting, we're going to talk about our plan to reorganize centrally in ways that's going to support this. The meeting after that is March 13th, which is our presentation of the budget. And you're going to see a budget that's going to come before you that's going to be building the district we want and how to fund that, which may have some new approaches to the work, new positions, while eliminating others. That's going to be the first for us. Eliminating positions and creating others. And I'm going to ask you to think with us. And this is a continuous improvement process. This was a continuous improvement plan. The budget process is a continuous improvement process. So the next 2 meetings are going to be as critical as this one, as we talk about what we're going to do centrally to support the work, and then as we begin the conversation around resource allocation and what that looks like. So much work to happen in the coming months, but it is now. It's bold and it's innovative, and the now is right now. And it's uncomfortable. This change is serious change. Again, I said to our group, and I'll say it here publicly, everyone in this building is going to be doing something different next year, including myself. Now, to say that causes some angst for people, and that's change, but we're doing those things to better serve our young people.
Okay. To tag on what I said previously, and as I look out to many of you that I know, I would like the dialogue with us to continue so that as we go forward, even if we're not in a meeting or whatever, that if you have something to say or something to add or something to criticize, that you contact one of us or the assistant superintendents or Dr. Brown.
I get them anyway. So
But I'd like the dialogue really to continue.
Anyone else? Dr. Brown had basically the last words there. So we're going to wrap up our workshop regarding students with disabilities plan, if I could speak. And we will go on to the last, any other board announcements, business? You don't hear,
I just got one announcement. We're having a policy meeting tomorrow, board members. Come on, join us. And so tomorrow, my good policy committee folks and I will be going over the 3000 series. We're meeting in conference room A at 5 p.m. And that will have gotten us through, the 2000 series, am I right?
Yeah,
I apologize.
2000.
The 2000 series, even more exciting.
just skip the 2000.
Just skip the 2000.
Go right to that.
Yes.
Thank you, Robert.
Finance is Thursday. Be there or be square.
Yes, finance and facilities.
We are looking at budget numbers all the time, budget-related items in finance, like another public meeting, as we work to the March 13th rollout of, we do have to do a budget at some point, Dr. Brown. This is, we do have to do our work. And so, anything else? Nothing? Reprise, anyone? Anyone wishes to speak? Susan?
I was going to wait until somebody else spoke, but there's no one else.
Well, you raise your hands first.
Thank you. First of all, good evening. This was a wonderful evening, and it is what I am representing the union has striven for years, having all of us at the table together. It really does make a difference, and I hear what everyone's saying about change and how difficult it is. It's not necessarily difficult. It's really a positive thing. If the change goes to presenting instruction and providing those who are in the classroom a means by which we can scaffold our instruction so that all the kids have access to what they need without using specific labels, then we're all for it, and it's not a negative. It's really moving forward towards a goal we've had in common. There's a common concern that I hear, and we'd love not to use labels and not to have to classify. And I brought it up in my group, and I bring it up openly, that there's always the economic factor. That if we have a child who needs something intense, maybe it's just something as simple as articulation or something in language, where 6 weeks of intense support could provide that child with a skill so that we wouldn't have to keep providing this support all through the years, that we need to know that we will somehow be able to provide those resources. It's a different way of delivering services. And if we go back to some of the philosophies, I don't know if it's going back or moving forward, that we look at the whole child, not just the writing or not just the math, but the whole child, where they live, who they're with, their whole life. If we go to that and respect them as people and then address their needs, I think together as a community we'll be more successful. And speaking on behalf of the 600 people I represent, we look forward to the challenge of starting to celebrate what we're doing right and the victories. The glass is half full. We are getting better, and I want to celebrate that. Don't forget, this is Ithaca Loves Teachers Week next week, and we have a reception on Saturday on North Hugo Street at the Wine, what's the name of it?
The Wine Center.
Finger Lakes Wine Center, and we invite anybody who's in education to come and join us. One drink is on us, 3:30 to 5. Right after you have your chili, come on in and see what's happening that's good.
Another plug for a local business, very good. Was there anyone else?
Yeah, I did want to just say tomorrow is a pretty exciting event at BOE Middle School, so I just thought it would be nice to acknowledge that here. It's, I think, the 8th year now that the annual Black History event is going on. Black history is American history, and I just think it's one of those events that takes a lot of work for people to plan, and folks should be commended for it.
And just, Susan, Barry, what time are we talking tomorrow?
I believe it's all day.
All day?
Kicks off at 9.
Okay. Just,
Dr. Brown's presenting, yours truly's presenting, a number of folks are presenting tomorrow.
just so folks are aware, really all day, and these guys apparently are going to think of something to say tomorrow. But I think we're done talking tonight. Seth, you wanted to
adjourn.
Second.
Without objection, we are.